I was impressed last night's show saying that performance-wise it seemed impeccable. But it seems like action-wise you guys have toned down the act a little bit. There's not less jumping and gymnastics and all that.
I don't know, Sammy was all over the place.
Sammy still got it.
For me personally, I need a hip replacement. So,
Really?
yeah.
What's the problem?
I have what's called a vascular necrosis. The same thing Bo Jackson had, football player, baseball player. And it's actually from years of jumping.
Really?
Yeah. And so at the end of the tour, I'm going to get a new hip. And then I'll be jumping again.
Really? Well, you will be able to jump again with your hip.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that right, really?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But so, yeah, so I'm actually concentrating on playing more. You know, I bop around a bit, but I'm not jumping off the drum riser, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, because it hurts.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
But I don't think, you know, I really don't think that's what ever made Van Halen anyway. You know, I think it's the music and besides we got the screen and it's like if you're halfway back, you know, we look like little dots. Anyway, so if you're jumping it,
Jumping dots.
it doesn't really, can't really see it anyway. So it's not a conscious thing, you know. We just
The energy is in the music.
yes, it really, you know, it really is.
Duly noted. Duly noted.
Better because of not running around and acting crazy. You know what I mean?
More on the
Yeah.
Yeah, no. ずっと
Tell me, huh?
Is that a fashion statement, or do you actually do
No, I
Re-herniated disc.
Re-herniated disc
You're
in my
kidding.
neck. You know,
What happened to you?
it's just an old accident that I had.
Water skiing accident.
Oh, I see.
Hit the water, about 65 miles an hour.
It's like hitting concrete.
That's right.
You know.
Right.
But it's being worked on.
Uh-huh. So when you drum,
It just keeps my head from bobbing too much. That could paralyze me.
more
Compromising our ability to play, then you know it allows me to do what I can do. But if it affected the way I played, I wouldn't do it.
I guess age is a factor as well. You think some creep
No,
factor
Bo
a lot.
Jackson was 24 when he had a hip replacement.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with age. It's just, you know, one wrong move. It's like, you know, you step out front of a bus and it's got nothing to do with age. Well, you know what I mean? It really just got nothing to do with that.
関係ないんじゃないですか。
例えばアイディアを
And I guess you had said, you say that you still are very nervous before you get scared.
Yes,
And that,
I think if I wouldn't be, then I wouldn't be human for one. And I think that is part of, it's, you know, it's part of the excitement, you know. If I wasn't nervous, it would be just another gig, so to speak, you know.
you said you've also been very upfront about battle with alcohol and how the nervousness contributed to that. And now that you're off alcohol, how do you deal with the nervousness?
I just work through it, you know. And the funny thing is, when I used to drink, I'd be drunk and nervous. So it really didn't do any good. I just thought it did. And I you know, we listened to the board tape every night after the show, you know, just to see, you know, how things are balanced and things like that.
You go through the whole thing?
Well, no, just little tidbits, you know, to see what the sound engineer up front's doing. And when I used to drink, I used to walk off stage right after the show and think I played great. I'd listen to the tape the next day and go, I didn't play as good as I thought. Now that I'm not drinking, it's the other way around. I walk off stage thinking, I could have done a little better, but I listen to the tape and go, wow, I played great. So it's a good reverse.
Now, let's keep in mind, I don't think I ever played bad. So, you know, this is really a personal.
Yeah, it's a
relatively
very
personal.
It's
Yeah,
a very,
it's a personal
very fine tuning.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's a personal thing. Yeah. Self gratification and satisfaction.
I guess the problems with alcohol, you both had problems with alcohol.
I wouldn't really consider it problems. It's just we drank for a lot of years, and it was just time to quit.
Was it a means of escape?
I think,
it's just,
well, different things. Ask Ed to tell you one thing. You know, anywhere from Charlie Parker to you name it, I've always looked for something to either give them more creativity or put you in a different spiritual plane. People who don't even play instruments sometimes take drugs in their quest for finding God or whatever it is. You know, it's just there's something innate in human beings that needs them to look elsewhere beyond just what's here on the planet. And musicians are no different. There comes a point in time, of course, when this door that you think drugs open, whether it's alcohol or heroin or anything, the door gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And eventually, there is no more door, and all you got left is a drug habit.
Exactly.
Fortunately, we were smart enough and lucky enough to get out before it got to that point.
And the thing is that the music or the creativity does not come from the alcohol. It comes from somewhere else, you know. And so alcohol really has nothing to do with it. You take drugs to think that it does, you know. But after time, like Al said, the door closes on you, and you realize that, wow, that it really had nothing to do with it.
By the way, he sometimes asks for translations, and sometimes there seems to be little solos and sort of spotlights on each person and featured segments and songs for each member of the band. Rather than the Van Halen tradition, is that not a way of maintaining a feeling of democracy in the band, and everybody has their own little moment in the sun?
No, because what it really is that in 2.5 hours, or 2 to 2.5 hours that we play, you need texture changes. You know, the last thing that we want to do, at least in my opinion, the last thing we want to do is make it sound like we're playing the greatest hits of. We can easily fill 2 hours with just song after song after song after song after song. But I think to really fully enjoy the 2 hours,
It takes you on a ride.
it takes you on a ride, exactly.
It-
You have highs, you have lows. You have
Yeah.
quiet, you have loud. You have drum by itself, drum with other instruments. You know, and I
And
think
it also gives us each a little point in time to step out and improvise on our own.
Make it interesting.
Yeah.
you know,
I don't feel like doing one. You know what I mean?
so we cut it short.
Yeah.
Like the bass solo.
Yeah, so do all my bass.
Como is he's still playing for the Dodgers, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right, yes. You are correct.
He doesn't even know.
Yeah, no more Ramadan.
Yeah, very good.
Yes. Real good.
Our hero.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, he's a hero in
In America, too.
Right.
Well, I'm not
Yeah.
saying it.
Yeah.
One of the more spectacular things about Van Halen is a non-musical thing, and it's the fact that the band has kept plugging away for 18 years without major crisis, save for David Lee Roth. There were tragedies, of course. You lose your father, you lost a manager. But the band never really got on the charts, hit the skids. 18 years has been pretty tough. And what is it that keeps, that maintains the longevity of the band?
With common bond through music, you know?
But I mean, other bands have that as well. Though. I
Yeah,
think they lose
right.
sight of music.
Well, and not losing touch with the people you play for, and not
Yeah.
forgetting where you came from and why you do this. You know, there are so many people who we see, and you see them, or we see them, who get to a certain level of quote-unquote success, and they isolate themselves, they don't talk to people, you know, it's just, we call it the ivory tower syndrome. You know, and I find it very odd that the very thing that you play music for, which is the interaction with the people, is that all of a sudden these people just kind of turn their back on it. And that's something we've never done. We never turned our back on our audience. And I also think that one of the things is that we respect the people who we play for. We don't think of them as just a mass of public and that you can get away with anything and you know, it's not like that.
Yeah, and on top of that, you know, music is our life. This is what we do. It's not a means to an end or a goal that we're trying to reach. This is what we do. And, you know, I'll make music until I drop. It's my life. I think for a lot of people, they get into it for a reason, you know, whether it be to make money or to be a star or whatever, you know. To me, the whole star thing was like, it's not me, you know. I'm a musician. There's a difference between a musician and a rock star, and I'm definitely not a rock star. You know, people might consider me one, but I'm a musician. I think that's a big difference.
Connects to the last question, but having had success for so long, having had this string of number ones throughout the world, there must be a temptation to some sort of a a desire to take on the persona of the rock star, and let that go to your head. How are you able to keep that?
See, I think it does get back to the last question, because I think that's what happens to a lot of people. They start believing in their own press. And that's why I really don't read reviews or things like that, because that's someone else's opinion, whereas I go by our own opinion. When we make a record or write a song, we're in the studio and you push rewind at the end of the day, and if we like what we hear, we let it out. So we are our own critics, you know? And, you know, I don't know, where am I going with this?
That's it.
Yeah, well, it's just, I guess, staying true the original inspiration of the extension.
Exactly.
And there's also always that thing of the best song from this band hasn't been written yet.
So kind of a hunger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. Chasing that elusive, whatever it is, you know.
One other thing he wants to get cleared up, I mean, he seems to be hitting me with questions about the mystery of it, or the mystique of it, and what makes you what you are. This is, I guess, the third part of that series. You seem to have a natural gift, almost a sort of genius, people blessed gift. And the thing is, he knows that people who have been blessed with that gift are often kind of dysfunctional socially, as members of a band, as members of society. Whereas in your case, that doesn't seem to apply at all. Very level-headed.
Tell you the honest God truth, I don't know anyone who was functional. Show me a functional person.
Well, I mean, they have fights with members of their band or their entourage, or they can't hold down a marriage, or they can't associate with their family. I think when you say dysfunction, you use that. Whereas you guys, brothers and brother, as your marriage is lasting. The band, except for doing the rock, very tight. Sam obviously very tight and friend. But in your case, it doesn't seem to apply. You seem to be the exception rather than the rule. Taking a gift and just sort of applying that.
I think it all just boils down again to the common bond of love of music. You know what I mean? And yeah, we do have our arguments and things like that, but you work through them. You know? I mean, we're all grown-ups. We're not. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm going to take my toys and go home. You know what I'm saying?
Grown-ups do it all the time.
Well,
Take my toys and go home.
you know what I mean?
He has the impression that you guys are not being the type who struggle with getting the music out. Creativity seems to flow very naturally for those doing it. You see behind closed doors, struggling for days or weeks or months over a song or an album. Have you gone through that stage before? And so,
There have been times where it's been difficult, you know, but you know, you just work through that too. It's like sometimes, you know, I mean, I usually start with the riffs, you know, the musical part of it, and so yeah, it takes me a long time sometimes. Sometimes it comes easy. Sometimes I gotta work. You know, it's not always like, oh, thank you, God. You know what I mean? It's not that easy. That's the part that I think the public doesn't understand. You know, the real dedication and the work involved behind what appears to be so simple on stage. You know, so yeah, there are hard times creatively, but when you're up against a wall like that, you move on to something else.
can you think of any one time that you suffered your worst case of creative block and what album or what song?
Not right offhand. It's never been something to the point where it's like, you know, where it makes you mental. But you know what I mean? It's like there's always plenty of ideas, and you know, it's like we have so many songs that we haven't put out just because we weren't totally happy with them, and so we move on to something else because we are happy.
Well, I guess you're constantly working.
Yeah.
You never really sit back and say.
No, I mean, I write in my room, you know. At night, you know, after a gig, if I can't sleep, you know, I play guitar, come up with things, and either turn into something or they don't. And it's frustrating when they don't, but, you know, that's part of life.
About 3 or 4 times you said now you just sort of work right through it. Now I know what you mean. You do literally.
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
You're constantly
You
working.
have to, you know.
You're always doing something.
Yeah. Go on. Just go with it. You can't just stop and say, you know, if you're stuck in the middle of a song, okay, what, you may end your career because you can't finish that song? You know what I mean?
The opening, you say, for example, one reason he was asking that is maybe, this is something we encountered from other artists, but first album you kind of blow your wad. You use up all your stuff, your catalog tricks. Right. When it comes time to make the second album, you sit there in the room and think, all right, I've got nothing left. That never happened. You never felt you were like creatively spent.
No.
I remember when we toured for like
11 months straight.
it was actually longer than that. It was a little, yeah, about 13 months. It was over a year. And then I remember because we were all like, you know, we were doing the rock and roll thing. Hey, this is, you know, we did everything that we'd read about. You know, throwing things out the window. You know what I mean? The rock and roll thing, and we just did it because we're rock stars. Let's get silly. And I'll never forget. We were finishing a tour in England, and I remember sitting the guys down, or you know, especially Dave, and saying, "Hey, chill out, buddy, because we got another record to do next week." And we had nothing written. And so yeah, there was pressure, but sometimes pressure is good too, you know. But you know, it's funny because every time we go in to make a record, it's like we've never done one before. It's a brand new experience every time. Someone asked me the other day, so what have you learned after 11 records? And I've learned that I really haven't learned anything. You know what I mean?
So you're fresh going into each season?
Yeah, it's the same anxieties, same excitement, same thing every time, which keeps it fresh too. You know? Down. What's the point? You know, once you've got it down, once you've reached that goal, okay, I know how to do it now. Then you're done.
Oh, I see. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Then there's no
Point in making a record.
Exactly.
And throughout the 11 albums there, you guys have remained conspicuously indifferent to trends that what is your ideal process development?
I think you can only individually tell. You'll know when you've done it. That's the only way to.
It's also a very
explain that.
subconscious thing. You know, you don't. I personally don't say, okay, I have to do something different now or top myself or this and that. That is unnecessary added pressure for no reason at all. Because for one, I don't even know where the music comes from. You know, I just sit down and play and things come, hopefully, you know. Sometimes not, but you know, we are a band that in '77 got signed in the midst of punk and disco, and we were a rock and roll band. And now it's grunge and rap, and Van Halen is still a rock and roll band, and because we're just true to ourselves. You know, we make the music that we enjoy making, and we're very blessed and grateful that the people enjoy what we do. Music remains, you know.
I mean, about progress being measured in terms of things, but it's about you knowing how you progress and develop. Can you give like an example, a concrete example of how you progress?
Well, I can use an example of, let's say, of something that we weren't happy with, and the reason what happened after that. For instance, 0812 was a great record. We were not happy with the way that it was recorded. Yeah, so that's one element.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the way music is such an undefinable thing in terms of what I play on the drums is the way I kind of talk to Ed when he's playing guitar. You know,
It's a very self-expression.
Yeah, there are
Right.
subtleties, there are things that you may or may not notice, but it goes beyond just let's have a beat to what the guitar does, and then add a bass, and then have a melody that everybody can sing along with, so you have a top 40 song. It's not like that. It's that when you're in the studio and we're playing, it's just not only is it the texture of the sound, it's how it intermingles with the rest of it. It's all one big picture. You know, you're kind of painting a sonic picture. And the picture changes, you know. Awful Carnal Knowledge was a different kind of vibe. Granted, the songs are different, that's a given, but the vibe itself was different on that record than on Balance. You know, it's those kind of things that make it special when you're doing it.
That's why it's also very difficult to pinpoint progress or change, because I bet you if we re-recorded Balance right now, it would end up vibe-wise different, just because we're in a different place and time. You know, that was 4 months. You know, spent 4 months in the studio, and that was a slice of Van Halen at that point in time. If we did it now, it would end up different, even though we're playing the same songs.
I guess it's just sort of capturing your impulse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your emotions, your the way you feel that day depends on how I will solo, or you know what I mean. It's a very inner self-expression.
And they would say you can play no two solos the same.
Yeah. You know, I mean, there are, I recall it, certain guidelines that you follow, you know, otherwise it wouldn't be the same song.
But hey, when we stop, you got to end.
Yeah.
Stop.
There are rules.
Yeah, I mean, a certain...
Somewhat. I mean, it's like a painting, you know, it has to be on the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the stuff doesn't count.
I guess he's trying to press you towards a more concrete definition of progress, like in terms of, you listen to a solo like 2 years ago and say, I play better than that now.
It's actually quite funny, because Al just dug up somebody gave him the tape of our last Pasadena Civic show before we went on tour.
Back
in 77.
Right.
Okay? And I really don't play that much different. You know? It's just how you feel. And, you know, it's really an emotional, you know, guitar is just a vehicle for me to express myself. You know? I don't sit around and practice scales really, or try to, I think once I got to the point where I could play what the ideas that came to mind, or when I heard something on the radio and I could immediately play it, that's when I realized that technically I'm pretty much there. You know? So progress, I guess the closest to this pressing question would be, I think, songwriting gets better. You know, outside of that, it's really just self-expression on your instrument. You know? And I'm the only one who can judge if I'm progressing or not.
He's going to try it one more time, right?
You can pick up something heavy if he does better.
Progressed. I think it's changed, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Evolving, and I think it's a change more than it's progressing. I mean, what do you ultimately progress to?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point of playing faster than I can already play?
I'll see both of you.
A Grand Prix race. You know, it's not who's got the fastest car.
Right. This question is a little bit, he says complex, but maybe it's a little more bombastic than complex because the album Balance hit #1 in America, UK, Japan, as well. And he seems to think that you guys have discovered a sort of a universal language that can cross borders, that people appreciate universally. What do you think about your music makes it universal, makes it cross borders so
I think just music in general, that's what it is. It is the universal language.
But other people make music, and their music doesn't necessarily achieve the same sort of status in other countries that yours.
No, that's an impossible
Is
question.
that a question for the sociologist?
Yeah, you know, I mean, because we just do what we do. There's no formula, there's no, you know what I mean? We don't sit down and say, hey, well, that worked, let's do it again. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like
Right.
that.
This went over big in Hamburg. Let's try this one again.
You know what I mean?
I do think that there are certain universal things in people, such as
you try to play in tune.
You know,
And
it doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what language you speak. When you're unhappy, you're unhappy. If you're angry, that's angry is the same in Russia as it is anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I think if music can somewhat evoke some kind of an emotion from people, I think that's really good. That's why they call it universal.
Yeah.
And, I think rock and roll at this point almost been in existence 45 years. It's become an art form in and of itself. It's no longer the 15-minute wonder that they thought it was, when Elvis and Chuck Berry and most people were around. And it's now become a bona fide arena, if you will, for expressing art. And the part of the thing about music is that it's a band reflecting what we see on the planet. Yeah, there are love songs and there are some of the, typical man-woman function type things, going on. But it's still, you try in your music to kind of relate to other people what you think of this planet and what's going on.
I think you guys stay very basic.
Well, we don't really think about it, It's for instance, a song like "Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do." Originally, the song was called "Tell Me What Love Can Do." And the lyric is totally different, and it just didn't feel right with the music. The music sounded a little more angry. It sounded more straightforward, And you go to any TV and turn on CNN, and I bet you that 90% of it is got violence and killing and war and all that kind of stuff. So we told Sam, look, why don't you change it to listen? Don't tell me what love could do. Show me. That was really good.
Because that's what the vibe of the music spoke to us,
And it's just one example. There's stuff goes so quickly when you're in the studio. It's just if you're not there, you miss it. Things change, and it's just again, it's between the four of us because you've got four people and they're all exactly at the same time. Whether it's on our instruments or whether it's vocally, it's very transient. Well, it's I think it touches people, which is really good.
Your main goal seems to be to keep the listener happy, people happy. In order to do so, you seem to have to be enjoying yourself.
Right, no, it's not quite that way. It's what it really is that I know what I like. Ed knows what he likes. And when this band makes music, when we're happy with something, then that's great. Because we haven't changed from the audience, because we have not isolated ourselves, because we're still the same, then that's pretty much a safe thing to say that they would like it too. I mean, yes, of course, you want, everybody likes to be liked, you know what I mean? You don't write a piece of music to say, I hope they hate this, So, yeah, but it's not solely to pander to people, because when you do that, then you're fucked.
Songs to please the audience, because when you first started asking the question, I was going to stop you, because we're actually, personally, I'm a lot more selfish than that, because I please myself first, because you can't please someone else if you're happy. You know what I mean? So we please ourselves first, and then put it out there, and we're lucky that people like it. And I think the reason behind people liking it is what Al just said, because we're not out of touch with, what we like, pretty much what other people like. We're lucky in that respect.
I'm a fan of the Oasis. This band is well known for. They're two brothers. Guitar player, singer, very well known for their stuff like shooting and whatnot. When you're a kid, you guys never have any big disagreements?
Oh yeah. We used to.
Yeah. I guess, but it was always, about the music.
Really?
Huh?
I want it this way, Ed wants it that way.
Was that at the songwriting level?
Yeah. But a lot of it is really going to boil down to came out of frustration, because I don't play guitar. I hear something, and I, of course, automatically assume that Ed's hearing what I'm hearing. And by the time I get through explaining it to him, forget it, it's too late. And I would really be angry with myself, but, things escalate, and then...
It's basically just venting frustration than it is being angry with each other. You know what I mean?
But after all these years, it must probably almost like automatic communication.
Yeah, you don't think about it. It's,
happens.
Yeah.
Very abstract question. But if you were to, in a fantasy world, if you were to run into the 22-year-old self, what would you tell the 22-year-old? How would you tell the 22-year-old Edward Van Halen he should live his life? How would you tell the Alex Van Halen he should live his life?
Yeah, you can't, I think part of life is making mistakes. Part of life is looking, searching, I mean, if you knew everything that was going to happen and it was all cut out and laid out for you, then what's the point of doing it? And part of life is to
The unknown.
go. Yeah, it's the unknown.
And learning from your mistakes. I wouldn't go back and tell myself, don't do that. I mean, it's going to probably make some other mistake that I'd have to come back and tell myself.
I would have said, now that it's off, I would have said, you know what, let's put Eagles on 5150.
Yeah.
Eagles fly.
Sammy played that song for us, and it was just too much energy and too much rock and roll going into that to play an acoustic song about being born.
It just wasn't the vibe at the time.
He played it, he just chunked along, it wasn't the vibe.
Playing it
Then he
up.
put it on the solo record. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I can tell.
When I ended up playing bass and producing with it.
That's the one that got away.
Well,
Didn't
you
go
got,
away.
you got away.
Play it.
I think it would have ended way different had it been the Van Halen song.
I didn't like the rhythmic part of da-da-da-da, there was too
Yeah.
There was too several that people fucking doing that shit.
You got your integrity.
Oh, no, very good Japanese.
It's living.
No, I mean, you live there?
Oh, yeah.
How long?
15 years. I went to the Bay Area.
It's a tough language.
I guess so, but it's, when it's the only other language to study, though. I did Spanish back in college.
Like Japanese on the scroll thing. It's like each letter is
It's
like
5,000 characters, right?
Yeah, so like 5,000 characters?
Well, it can be, though. They don't use that.
No.
Chinese, basically.
How many you actually use?
2,500. The thing is, though, look at you guys play your instruments. I could never do that.
Yeah, it's only 12 notes. Well, it depends on how you rate
Well,
it,
12 notes per second, you're kidding.